Hello, y'all. What's going on today? It's Bimbo. I'm back with another wedding planning video. And today I'm talking all about how to choose your venue. Okay, so we're coming at you. And like I said, I'm Bimbo. I am a sister, a friend, an educator, and newly a wife. And I had so much fun planning our wedding. We did not use a wedding planner. My older sister helped as our wedding planner and coordinator. My younger sister was an amazing maid of honor. All of my 13 bridesmaids just did a lot to help things come together. My husband's family, they did a lot too. My family did a lot. So it took a tribe, but because I planned it myself, I was in the midst of planning. I wanted to make these videos to help someone else who might be in a similar situation. So where do you even start? Where do you even start? Finding a venue can be a little overwhelming because, you may have gone to an event somewhere in your town and you're like, oh, this would be a really nice venue for a wedding. And then, girl, you Google their website, you email their people, and suddenly they're like, it's $15,000 for an hour. And you're like, say what? Okay, that might be a little extreme. But that really was my experience when I actually started really looking for venues. And side story, even though I am the girl who had like 9 Pinterest boards for our wedding, even like some of them created before I was engaged, all of them created before I was engaged, I still had not really looked for a venue before we were engaged. So I was learning on the spot. I'm trying to help you not have to go through some of the same things I went through. So I'm going to tell you 3 things you should do before you even start looking for a venue. 3 things you need to nail down. And then I'm going to give you 5 steps to finding your perfect venue, okay? And I loved what my big sister said as I was in the middle of wedding planning, where she was like, finding a venue is kind of like getting married, like in the sense that like, have your idea of what you want and realize like once you say yes, once you sign that contract, like you are in a relationship with this venue now until your wedding. So you can't just decide, once you pay that deposit, what's done is done. So do your research before. So very first thing I would say you need to know before looking for a venue is what is your budget and how much are you comfortable spending on a venue. Doesn't matter what other people say. Like in the sense of some people say spend only 10 or 20% of your overall wedding budget on venue. You still need to decide what you're comfortable with, okay? Because think about it this way. You say your wedding, let's say your overall budget is $10,000, for example. You probably don't want to spend $8,000 of it just on your venue because let's say you're having food. You're going to need to pay for that. What about your wedding dress? All these different things. So just keep in mind the very first thing you need before doing anything wedding related, anything at all, figure out your actual budget, okay? Your budget will dictate everything. And it could be $1,000. You don't have to, like micro weddings are very in right now. You don't have to figure that out right away. Like as far as like, you don't have to, I didn't mean to figure it out. You don't have to spend $1 million is what I meant. You just need to figure out what works for you and your fiance. So the second thing has to do with budget, and that is your guest count. Figure out your size because that will dictate your budget. We invited 511 people to our wedding. And oftentimes you have to make decisions, actually almost always, you have to make decisions about your venue before you send out invitations. So make sure your venue can actually accommodate all of the people you want, especially if you're having 2 venues, like let's say you're getting married at a church and then you're going somewhere else for a reception. Make sure that both venues can actually fit all of your people. And then the third thing to consider is kind of like the vibe you want to go for. So right now, getting married in kind of like hipstery, like almost factory looking warehouses inside that people put like eucalyptus and gold trim and like a grungy look is very in some places. A barn wedding. I really thought we were going to get married in a barn. The Lord had other plans and our wedding was beautiful. But think about the vibe you want and then think about what time of year you also want to get married as well. So maybe an outdoor wedding in December, depending on where you live, may not be realistic. It may be if you live in a tropical area. It may not be. So just consider the vibe of the place that you want, because that will help you narrow down your search. If you know you don't want to get married on a golf course or somewhere that's outside, then that immediately makes it a lot easier to search for the venue you want. So have an idea of your vibe. You may not know exactly the kind of venue you want right away, but know like the general vibe. So like I was saying, I knew I wanted a rustic vibe. And actually it ended up being more like a classy vibe, all of these random words people throw out with wedding planning. But I was really set on a barn. The reason actually all three of these things ended up coming together, this is my little example of why you need to know these three things before wedding planning and before searching for the venue is, one, when I started looking for barns in our state, in the tri-state area, barns were really outside of our budget. Okay, we were seeing places for $5, $10, $15,000 that didn't even include anything else. It was just the venue. So you don't get linens; those are your tablecloths and your napkins or chair covers. You didn't get food with that. That was literally just so you can walk in and breathe in the barn. And I was like, okay. So the budget definitely limited us with that. The second thing was the size. A lot of barns, I found out, actually don't fit a lot of people inside. So we would have had to have an outdoor wedding. And I was living in a very hot state. And that's where we wanted to get married. So that did not work for our size. And then also the vibe, because yeah, I didn't want people sweating, because we had decided when we were going to get married was going to be, late spring, early summer. And so, yeah, all of those three things, your budget, the size of your wedding guest list, and then also the vibe didn't fit for what I thought I wanted. So that's how I pivoted as I started to search. So here are kind of like the 5 general steps you're going to move within as you are wedding planning, as you are trying to find this venue that could be perfect for you guys. And I would say the very first thing, ignore me if I'm looking down a little bit, but because I have a little list of the things so I don't forget anything exciting for you guys. The very first thing I would say is make a list of all your desires. Doesn't mean you're going to get everything, but make a list of literally, in your best case scenario, what would your venues be like? Once again, this may be a little bit more complicated if you're looking for 2 different venues, but I'm just going to speak in generalities, okay? So you could apply this whether you're having your ceremony or reception at a different place. Make a list of what you want. Do you want a place that will let you have the place for the whole day? For us, that was very important because I knew I was going to have a team of people. My sister and her friends were so amazing. Set up all the decor in the morning. Like, do you want a place that's going to have you there all day? Or, because if you're going to dance into the night, like we wanted dancing and stuff. We didn't want the party to have to end early. Will the place allow that? Or do you have to keep adding money to it because of that? Is the place inside? Is the place outside? Think of the general things that you want and start with your best idea and then start kind of compromising on different things. Don't start compromise, start with your best idea. The second thing to keep in mind after you've decided all the things that you really, really want in your venue is choose a date. Have a pretty good idea of your best case scenario of a date between you and your partner. Maybe include your families in this conversation if they're going to have to travel or things like that. But choose a date. And we had a lot of things to contend with. I'm an educator, the school year ending. We got married 2 days after the last day of school. Very interesting timing. There was a lot of stuff going on. So just make sure you have a date in mind as you start looking for a venue, because they're going to need that to even book you. So you can't say, I want to get married sometime in the spring. They're going to say, well, what dates are you looking at? Also keep in mind, if you get married on a Saturday, and even now Sundays are getting more popular too, those tend to be more expensive than if you get married on a random day. Now, I've been to both types of weddings, like a friend who got married on a Friday or even like a Tuesday or on a holiday on a Monday. I would take those with a little bit of a grain of caution because it does end up being sometimes more difficult for guests to come in the middle of a week and take off more time of work than if you just get married on a weekend. But if that's what's important to you and your partner, choose your date and be happy. So that's the second thing, is make sure you have a date in mind. You've got 1, the kind of best case scenario of what you really want in your venue, and then 2, choose your date, and go with that and start looking into vendors in that way. The third thing, honestly, is just start reaching out. Like, start reaching out to venues. And how you could do that, this is probably the crux of the video, is Google. Google is your best friend. The Knot. We personally, I'm going to do a whole review video on Zola. Zola saved our life. Zola is what we use for our wedding planning. I love it. But that didn't keep us from using websites like The Knot, Wedding Wire, Zola. All of these websites have search engines for vendors. Vendors include venues. So it may be country clubs. It may be any place that has said you could have a wedding here, banquet halls, any place, convention centers, literally any place, hotels that says you could have a wedding here is usually listed on these websites. So go ahead and look. They do a lot of the guesswork. You could filter it for, I'm going to have 200 guests. I want to have it on this date, you know, whatever. They generally help you. So literally, the Monday after we got engaged, I quite literally messaged like 500 venues. And that's not an exaggeration. I have the emails, I have the messaging. What it ended up happening for me was a lot of them just literally could not fit our size. So I had a little copy and paste message. I did not type it out every time. I created a Word document. Hi, my name is Vimbo. Hey, I am expecting around 500 guests at my wedding. I want to get married on this date. Please let me know if this is something you guys do. And honestly, because some of the search engines didn't list the capacity for these venues, I ended up hearing back from a lot saying, you know, either they couldn't do it or their number was improperly listed because after COVID, a lot of venues started accommodating a lot less people. So check in your area about how that's affected if you're trying to have a large wedding. But yeah, literally just start reaching out because that's the best way to, one, actually start learning more about venues, and then two, find the best venue you want. So after you start reaching out, number 4, the next important thing before you start visiting places is get all of the details so you don't waste time visiting venues. I ended up visiting 3 different venues. One was 30 minutes from me, one was 2 hours from me, one was 6 hours from me. They were all in my state. They were all close to areas we wanted to have the wedding. And to save yourself time from traveling to these places, first of all, make sure that the venue is within your budget, okay? Don't go visit a $50,000 venue if that's not even your wedding budget, okay? So make sure the venue is within your budget. And it's important to know our venue we ended up going with was not only within our budget, they included a lot of the things that you end up having to spend more on. So be careful because some venues will say, it's $1,000 venue, but you have to pay for tables, you have to pay for chair rentals, you have to pay for linens, you have to pay for someone to be there. Some if you are having adult beverages at your reception, some you have to pay for security people. We did not have alcohol at our reception, but if that's something you're going with, some will charge you more to have a security officer on the premise. Some will charge you all sorts of random little hidden fees. So before you waste your gas money, because gas ain't cheap, make sure that you know that your venue is actually within your budget, okay? I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but I know I was certainly shocked when I found out, oh, no, you are trying to charge me for a chair? Why am I paying $8,000 to look into this? I'm not trying to be shady, but there was literally this place. It was so cute. It will remain unmentioned, but it's very hipstery. If in another life I was a hipster, I totally would have got married there. But girl, or man, or whoever's watching this, it was $8,000 with nothing in it. $8,000 for a slab of concrete inside, and needless to say, we did not go with that reception venue. We actually really lucked out because our reception venue is relatively new, and I will insert pictures. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So wonderful. And like I said, they included tables, chairs, uplighting, linens, all sorts of things. So our venue was just amazing. But enough about my venue. Let's say you've done all of the different things. You've chosen your date. You've started to reach out to vendors. You've made sure it's within your budget. You've done all of these things. You know, now you're ready to go visit the venues. What I would say to that is bring a friend if you can. For me, I was not able to on my venue visits, but if you're unable to bring someone, I FaceTimed people there. And so my first venue, I went to like a barn. I took videos. You ask them, of course, can I take a video? Can I FaceTime? And my second venue, which actually ended up being our wedding venue, I videoed with my sister. And she was like, my sister who ended up decorating for it, my older sister. And she was like, ooh, that's nice. And they have uplighting. And so getting further confirmation that the place is actually a nice place and worth them out was super great. And then the third venue I went to visit, like, ended up not being great. The carpet was weird and stuff like that. It was very far away from where I was living. So the fifth and final thing to do when searching for a venue is, if you can, and if it's where you live, go visit them, because it's very different to feel and look and experience it than just to see it online. Even with all the videos and things like that, you know, people can catfish you with venues. You don't want to be catfished into your venue. So anyway, yeah, I'm so excited because we now have like our photos and our video from our wedding day. So like I said, I will be inserting some of those here. But yes, please insert any comments about how you found your wedding venue, or if you found these tips helpful, and or if you want any other wedding planning, engagement themed videos coming your way. But I'm excited to do these, guys. And until next time, stay well, beautiful people. I'll see you. Bye-bye.